Welcome back to the second episode of the semester here on Plead Your Case. I'm your host, Seth Adams. Today we've got a slate of 3 brand new topics. A tragedy occurred a few weeks ago overseas, and it's led to some new awareness in the NHL. Plus, old school versus new school NFL. Which era of players is superior? Finally, should Major League Baseball look into implementing robot umpires? You know what to do. Sit back, relax. It's time to plead your case. Back here for the first segment on Plead Your Case. On October 28th, former Penguins forward Adam Johnson took a skate to the neck while playing in an England hockey league. He passed away shortly after. Today we're going to talk about the impact that is already having on the NHL and see what the NHL does moving forward. But without further delay, let me introduce my panel. To my left right here, Logan Arblaster, and on the far end, Scott Donnelly. So Scott, we're going to start with you. What are your thoughts on the whole thing in general?
Well, I did not actually see this. I know the outcome, I know what happened, and I just couldn't bring myself to watch this. It's something that can be prevented going forward. We are fortunate that we did not see this in an actual NHL game. It doesn't make it any less tragic. Having said that, I remember Clint Malarchuk, the goalie from the Sabres. This happened to him in 1989, and it happened to Richard Zednik of the Panthers just a few years back. But guys, those 3 tragedies are too many. This can be prevented at this point. There is already a system in place of neck guards, and I'm of the belief that the NHL needs to seriously look at making that a permanent thing.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, Scott. And in 1979, helmets were introduced into the NHL. And I feel like neck guards might kind of be in the same realm as that when it comes to comfortability, and it might take a little bit to get them to be comfortable, but once they're comfortable, I think a lot more players will be using it, and you just got to kind of influence the youth to start wearing it and start them there, so when they get older, it's just something that's kind of normalized in the sport.
So we're getting to a point where you have a lot of players who, like you said, Scott, are starting to wear this in the NHL. Do you think, guys, Logan, we'll start with you on this one.
Okay.
Do you think it's going to get to a point where the majority of the NHL is going to be wearing these neck guards from here on out?
Well, I think they should. In TJ Oshie, he was the first player on the Washington Capitals to wear one. And I think kind of having veterans and having that veteran presence, take the step forward and start wearing it. It might start influencing the other players to start wearing it themselves. Jeff Carter, Ryan Graves, 2 Penguins that wore the neck guards. So I think with more players wearing it, it'll catch on. And yeah.
Scott, what about you?
I don't think they should have the choice going forward. Maybe a slow implementation process like they did with the helmets, where you could wear them. You had to wear them coming into the league, but right. If you'd already been in the league, then you had the option. But I think this is too serious. We don't want another situation like DeMar Hamlin when the country's sitting there watching a guy who could be potentially dying in front of an arena full of people and on national television. Athletes, you have to. They're full of being macho and testosterone. You have to protect them from themselves. So make it a rule. Make them have to do it. There's going to be some resistance at first, but if it comes to saving lives, you got to do it. You have to realize in 1959, Jacques Plante, who was a legendary goalie with the Montreal Canadiens, was playing goalie without a mask on. He got his face smashed, so he decided, I'm going to wear the mask, and he was made fun of. He was ridiculed for that. It's just one of those things you got to get past, because now it's unthinkable for a goalie to be on the ice without a mask. That's crazy. Pucks whizzing at you. You have to protect the players from themselves, because they may not make that decision. The NHL needs to make the decision for them.
So yeah, that's what I was going to ask you guys next. And do you think, Logan, they should have a choice, or should it be a requirement for these guys?
Well, I do want to say that, well, yes, I do agree that it should be a requirement, but it doesn't eliminate the potential of laceration or something along those lines. 27% of people with neck guards on who got in an injury like that got their neck cut still with the neck guard. So it doesn't eliminate it, but still, you have a 100% chance of getting hurt without wearing one. Then you have a 27% chance with wearing one. I mean, you just have to wear it.
Yeah, and there's always resistance to stuff like this. I've mentioned to people before about how Dale Earnhardt did not wear the Hans device because it was uncomfortable, and he died on the track at Daytona. Had he been wearing that, it might have been a different story.
Yeah, guys. I don't know. I kind of got a different opinion for this. I think that it should be up to the players if they want to wear something like this. I know it's the only thing I say that. The only reason why I say that is because it's such a slim chance of happening that if the players want to have that, I think everyone should wear it, but I don't know if all players are going to want to wear it. I mean, like you said about the goalie mask earlier, but that kind of became like a huge thing throughout the NHL. But the neck guards so far, I think it's really up to the players because of how much of a freak accident it can be. But moving on to the next question for I have for you guys, should this have been addressed earlier, or should this have been addressed earlier?
I feel like it kind of takes something like this to happen, unfortunately, before something is put in place. But to me, there's no reason to have an injury like this again or anything like this happen again. In three Canadian hockey leagues, 3 Canadian professional hockey leagues have these put in place already to be a requirement, and the NHL needs to step in and do the same.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, I do think it should have been addressed prior to this because it was 1989 when this happened to Clint Malarchuk, and he has suffered from PTSD from this. He's in his sleep, he still sees a skate coming towards his neck, and it's affected him his entire life. And had the NHL maybe acted on that, it could have prevented maybe not this particular injury because this didn't happen in an NHL game. But again, it happening once, twice, that's 2 times too many.
Player safety should always be first, no matter what.
Yeah, Malarchuk, he was actually, like you said, 1989 injury. He was 1 millimeter away from a crucial artery that could have killed him, which is extremely scary. So maybe we're going to see some new changes throughout the NHL and maybe see a lot of these players have these neck guards. But we're going to be going into the NFL, old school versus new school.
Piracy is a crime. If you see someone downloading copyrighted Piracy is a crime. If you see someone downloading copyrighted material without paying for it, then you should inform the authorities immediately. If you download any copyrighted material from the internet without paying for it, then you should go to jail.
With Scott Donnelly being on the panel this week, we decided to cater a nice segment for him. Logan and I were obviously not alive during that old school football era where Joe Montana and Jerry Rice was the scariest connection and big hits were the norm. So Scott, can these guys from the old school be in today's game?
Oh man, absolutely. And since we're going old school, let me put on my
specs.
My specs where I can see into the future as well as what happened in the past. And I'm going to start with the most important position on the field, and that's the quarterback. Joe Montana, Dan Marino, John Elway, even getting into the 80s, through the 80s into the 90s. You had Peyton Manning, Warren Moon, Drew Bledsoe, Traegman. Now you're going to tell me that Jared Goff, Tua, Dak Prescott, these are the guys that you're going to tell me are the new school leaders.
Patrick Mahomes.
When it comes to that particular position, there is no comparison. Old school just blows these new guys.
So what we're going to do is we're going to pull the worst players from this generation and compare them to the best players of that generation. That just doesn't make sense, Scott.
No, listen, Bowtie. These are all the guys.
All right. I like Bowtie, actually.
See, this is new school versus old school.
These are the guys that are in the top 10 in passing right now. Sam Howell, Dak, Jared Goff, Josh Allen.
Why is passing yards your
weak.
number one thing that you're comparing? And we're talking specifically 2023. I mean, let's look at this on the whole scale here. We got Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes in this generation. Ben Roethlisberger, Aaron Rodgers. And if we want to talk comparatively, 30 years ago, John Elway, 4,030 yards of passing. In 2022, the last full year that the NFL has played, Patrick Mahomes, 5,250 yards of passing, plus 41 touchdowns compared to John Elway's 25.
Patrick Mahomes can play in any era. That's for sure. But you have to also consider, back in the era of these gentlemen that I just mentioned, the defensive backs, they had switchblades in their pocket. You could mug a receiver. You could grab a guy off the line of scrimmage and grab him and now, if you sneeze on a guy, there's a penalty flag coming out. There's flags
I'm
on
not
every
going to
play.
disagree with that. I'm not.
The game today is catered for more offense. So the guys of today, they're getting a little bit more leeway because higher points mean higher ratings.
Well, let me ask you this, guys. Look, the quarterbacks, big different. Like there's a lot of, you could talk about the quarterbacks, but let's talk about more the wide receivers, guys. The wide receivers there have been generational talent, including Jerry Rice, Randy Moss. You could go on and on. Can those guys? Does it really depend on the position? But does it start with? Let's start with wide receivers. Can the wide receivers hang today, even just as a wide receiver 2 or 3?
Can the wide receivers hang today with
like Randy Moss? Can Randy Moss hang with like the today other receivers and cornerbacks that are playing today?
I think that there is a certain group of players that still could, like the very upper echelon of wide receiver groups. Pretty much any skills position could still hang with the new school generation. But in general, the average player back then would not keep up with the average player now. And I think it's important to note that in 30 years, just the schematics of everything has changed so much. It's not as much of a debate between individual players as it is a debate between offense versus defense. Because back then, I mean, it was such a defensive-minded game, and now it's so offensive-minded. That's where I kind of fall into a little bit of a troubleshooting area with this debate.
Yeah, but skill is skill, and Jerry Rice was the most skilled player we've ever seen at that position. He was the hardest working man in the NFL. His workouts were legendary. Randy Moss, his hands were legendary. He could run any route, catch any ball with one hand. So if we're talking specific guys like that, but Michael Irvin was a big physical receiver, Sterling Sharp. These guys could play today. There's no question about it. These guys, because of their work ethic and their skill level, when it comes to the wide receiver position, it's more opportunities maybe today because the game has evolved from less run first, set up the pass, to passing is the most important thing. But there's no question in my mind. Randy Moss was one of the most incredible athletes I've ever seen, period. And Jerry Rice is the best wide receiver. And that's not even debatable. Just look at the top 10 list of wide receivers.
Well, I think my opinion is if you look at the best 6-year stretch of a wide receiver, Jerry Rice is right there. But Antonio Brown is my best receiver in a 6-year. I'm not laughing. I'm dead serious. Antonio Brown, if you look at the stats, 6-year span. Seth,
I know,
I
watched him.
And Scott got to watch him. He got to watch both. And I know you're a Cowboys fan, Scott, not a Steelers fan, but you have to agree with me. I mean, a little bit. If you give me Jerry Rice and Antonio Brown, they're 1A and 1A, but I'm taking AB every time.
Oh my goodness! Oh, you're killing me, Junior. Jerry Rice would run circles around Antonio Brown, and that guy was plenty good. There's no question. Antonio Brown was really good. He was just Looney Tunes, because he could still be out there making his case if he didn't pull off his shirt and start doing jumping jacks in the game.
You got CTE.
What?
Anyway, so do you think that, Randy Moss thrown in the league right now, boom, he's in this Sunday. He's the best, if not top 3 receiver in the league.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But here's the thing.
Randy Moss also played. He was still in the league in the early 2000s, so this isn't like this is some type of like crazy thing. I think Randy Moss probably could be top 3.
Absolutely. Like I said, skill is skill, and Moss had incredible hands. And I watched the guy play a lot. I mean, you watch highlights. I watched the guy play. His athleticism and his hands and his route running, his ability to jump and just take the ball away, 50-50 balls. No question, Randy Moss is in the top. He's probably in the top maybe 1 if he's playing today. He might be in the top 1, maybe 2.
Oh, so he's top 2, but not number 2.
Top 1. Top 1.
All right. So let's talk about it on the defensive side. So what about guys like Dick Butkus and Jack Lambert? Can they still put up the numbers like these guys do today? and like we got like T.J. Watt, Myles Garrett, Max Crosby, some guys on defense who are pretty heavy hitters. Do you think that these guys do you think like Dick Butkus and Jack Lambert could hang today?
Listen, I get the big scary idea of these players, and they're strong, and you never wanted to face them and all that. But you also have to consider, as we were talking about, it's just these guys, they were going up against an offensive game plan that was so simplistic that it was easy to defend against. So in addition to them being really, really good, they were going up against offensive coordinators that drew up plays like literally right here on a piece of paper. I mean, seriously. So to me, I think the way the NFL was back then, it kind of had to do with the simplicity of the play calling.
The game has definitely evolved, and the size of the player has also evolved. Even going into the 70s, the Steelers and the Cowboys, the two best teams of the 70s, Mean Joe Green played defensive tackle. He was 6'4", 275. That's small by today's standards. Randy White was 6'4", 257. Those are small guys. The average today is 6'3", 310 pounds. So the game has evolved. But my belief is whenever comparing old school guys like that to new school, you have to consider who they were playing against in relation to one another, and how today there has been bigger strides in nutrition, diet, personal training. Today you're trained more. You're better conditioned. You're bigger. You know that you can't be a tackle at 275. You know you have to be that big.
And that's
so it's geared up to a different degree.
And it's just natural for players to adapt and get stronger and faster. So.
Absolutely, but I think athleticism and skill would translate. Same as today's players. I think there are players that could go back and play in the old school days as well.
Well, guys, yeah, great stuff. Kickers, though, obviously, big difference there. But anyway, we're going to stick with the NFL and go to our Pick'em segment. Logan Lepiscopo as our host, Dean Shazer, Benicio DeFalco. See you after the commercial.
Welcome back into another Pick'em segment here on Plead Your Case. I'm Logan Lepiscopo, handling the battle between the two gentlemen that not only share a room in Wilson Hall, but are now going to battle to move on in the tournament. I've got Dean Shazer, and I've got Benicio DeFalco. Gentlemen, let's keep it a clean fight. We're going to go through Week 11 picks. We got a couple teams on a bye. We're not worried about them. We're going to dive right in. Thursday night football, Cincinnati Bengals, Baltimore Ravens. No T. Higgins once again for the Bengals. Start with you, Benicio. Who's winning this game?
I'm going to take the Bengals. I think the Bengals bounce back after taking that loss to the Texans. The Ravens, I think, are a very proven team, but I do think they can be potential frauds, and I think the Bengals definitely show it. Joe Burrow's starting to figure it out. Just give me the Bengals.
The Bengals had a rough patch last week. T. Higgins being out on my fantasy team really bugged me. I'm not a fan of either of those teams, being a Steeler fan. Anyway, the Bengals are going to win because if the Ravens lose and the Steelers win, the Steelers are first place in the AFC North. Give me the Bengals.
Well, that's a perfect segue into our first Sunday game, Steelers-Browns. I don't think I even needed to say this game or ask you guys who you're picking, but we'll start with you, Benny. Who do you think's taking this game?
I'm going to take the Steelers. Deshaun Watson being out for the season, I do think is going to make a difference for the Browns going down the stretch. DTR was announced the starter. I think TJ Watson can get to him, put the pressure on. I think defense overall is going to play very good in this game. The Steelers' rush game is definitely starting to figure it out as the season's going on. I think it's going to be a close one, as all AFC North battles tend to be, but give me the Steelers.
Yeah, not even from a Steeler fan perspective. With Deshaun watching. What is he watching?
He'll be
Deshaun,
watching from the sideline.
Yeah, because he had a shoulder season-ending injury as he broke a bone on his throwing shoulder. P.J. Walker's their starter for the rest of the year. They're not going to be able to bounce back against the Steelers, who have been on fire recently, especially their run game coming along. The two backs in the Steelers' backfield are much more powerful and younger than the Browns' backs. It's Ford and Hunt versus Najee and Warren, and right now Najee and Warren are the better duo. Give me the Steelers.
I'll give my non-biased pick. I'm riding with the Steelers as well. It's not even because I got two Steelers guys up here with me. They're just going to win. They're looking like a much better team offensively, so I think it's the Steelers to take. Whether it's DTR, whether it's P.J. Walker, whoever's taking snaps for the Browns, I don't think it's going to end well for them.
7-3 is going to feel pretty good.
Moving on, we have a battle in the NFC North between the Bears and the Lions. Justin Fields is supposed to be back this week. Does that have any factor in picking against the Lions, Benny?
No, I'm going to say Justin Fields or not, I got the Lions in this game. They're really proven. Amon-Ra has been good all season for the Lions. Lions as a whole, I mean, the run game, the 1-2 punch with Jahmyr Gibbs and Monty, I mean, the Bears just aren't going to be able to defend them. I think the Lions are going to do it pretty easy.
As an NFL fan, a lot of people knew that the Lions were going to be pretty solid this year, and they've proven to be, and so far exceeding expectations, honestly. 7-2 right now through the 10-game mark, week 10, is pretty impressive. Fields, he is going to have a game. He'll have about 250, 70 on the ground, 2 through the air, maybe throw an interception. But Jared Goff and the offense has been on fire, and they're in the dome. Give me the Lions.
As we move on to two very underwhelming teams this year, you have the Chargers, who just had the tough loss to the Lions, 41-38, and the Steelers team that they beat, the Green Bay Packers. They're facing off in Lambeau. Benny, who are you picking in this one?
As much as it hurts me, I do think the Packers are a very solid team, and Jordan Love is a solid quarterback in this league. I'm going to take the Chargers. I think the Chargers finally figured it out. It's going to be a close one, but give me the Chargers and Justin Herbert.
You know, I don't know if I've said it on this show. I know I've said it on the radio, 99.5 The Hot. I'm on there sometimes. I absolutely despise Brandon Staley as a person, as a coach, as a human being. I don't like the guy. He's terrible. With that being said, give me the Packers in Lambeau on their home field.
So our first disagreement here, Chargers-Packers in our 1 o'clock window. Next game, I don't think we're going to have any disagreement on, and it pains me to say this as I'm repping the Raiders. The Las Vegas Raiders going into Miami to play the Dolphins. I know Miami historically is not great recently against teams 500 or above, but just wind off the pick, Benny. Just let me hear it.
So I'm going to go with the Dolphins. It does hurt me a little bit, though, because the Raiders have looked a lot different ever since they cleaned house. I think they're a lot better team now. But like you said, Dolphins struggle against teams above 500. I think it's going to be a very close one. But give me the Dolphins over the Raiders.
Oh, we were looking at the spreads coming into the game, and it was 13.5 the Raiders are giving. With that being said, they're going to cover the spread, but they're not going to win the money line. Give me the Dolphins.
You know, that's fair. That's respectable. As long as they can cover 13.5, I'll take it as a win for, a whole interim staff in the coaching room. Next, we have the NFC East matchup between the two bottom teams, the Giants and the Commanders. The Commanders are favored by 8.5.
See, I'll start with this one. The Giants have looked terrible. Tommy DeVito is no Danny. He's not on the M&M commercials. He's no superstar, and he's not going to be anything in this league. The Giants 2-8, Commanders 4-6, as you said. But Sam Howell, the first quarterback in NFL history, through the first 11 games as a starter, to throw 2,900 passing yards, have 200-plus rushing yards, and 65% completion percentage. Howell's a good quarterback. The Commanders are a solid team, even though they got rid of two key D linemen. Give me the Commanders.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you here, Dean. I'm going to take the Commanders. Well, Giants very disappointing this season. Commanders, like you said, traded away two key D linemen, but they're also a very solid team. And Sam Howell, I feel like, is the real deal. He's been one of the big surprises this season, along with C.J. Stroud as a quarterback. But I'm going to take the Commanders over the Giants. I think they do it pretty easy.
And we got another game that's probably going to be a blowout. Dallas Cowboys, Carolina Panthers. Dallas is favored by 10.5. Are we thinking a 50 bomb is possible for the Cowboys? Whichever one of you want to go first. You took it away. So.
The Cowboys, America's team. I just saw Scott Donnelly walk by, Cowboys fan, for some reason, even though he lives in Pittsburgh. Cowboys are better. Bryce Young's not that good yet. Give me the Cowboys.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you here. I'm going to take the Cowboys. Like you said, though, I do think this is a possibility they could put up 50 points. This offense just loaded across the board. Dak Prescott, it looks a lot better this season, in my opinion. I think he's looked very solid overall. Give me the Cowboys.
Next, we got an AFC South matchup between the Titans and the Jags. The Jags looked awful versus the 49ers, but the 49ers are a Super Bowl potential team. So we'll take it with a little bit of grain of salt, the 34-3 loss. Who you taking in Duval County? Dean, I'll just keep it with you. Who you taking?
Derrick Henry, historically, especially in the past few seasons, has dominated the Jaguars. They're not good against Derrick Henry. Will Levis, an up-and-coming gunslinger. Jaguars looked weak last week. Give me the Titans on the road.
I'm going to disagree with you. I think Jags take care of it at home. I think they bounce back. After losing to the 49ers, I think Trevor Lawrence has a great day. I think Will Levis might struggle a little bit. Give me the Jaguars.
And let's just rapid fire some games off. I think are going to be some easy picks for you guys. 49ers hosting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Dean, who are you picking in this one?
Baker's good, but the 49ers are dominant. Give me the 49ers. Just cling and stop dancing.
Yeah, I'm going to take the 49ers as well. I think 49ers do it very easy. I think they stomp on the Buccaneers. And Brock Purdy has a very good day.
Next game, we got Cardinals back with Kyler Murray versus Houston Texans with potential MVP C.J. Stroud. Dean, who you taking?
C.J. Stroud's an animal. Ohio State fan. O.H. Okay. Just wanted to make sure we heard that. But Kyler Murray on the rise. Give me the Cardinals.
Ooh.
C.J. Stroud's good, but Texans won't be 6-5.
I'm going to disagree with you here, Dean. I'm going to take C.J. Stroud and the Texans. C.J. Stroud has been the real deal. Definitely, in my opinion, an MVP candidate. I think the Texans take care of business. I do think it's going to be very close as Kyler Murray looked pretty good last week.
Top 10 in the league right now, Stroud.
Stroud, I think he's top 3 and maybe MVP talks right now.
Well, MVP for sure, but top 3, like this year, yeah, but in the league, not yet.
Yeah.
We'll take it into the next game. Jets, Bills. Bills coming off an embarrassing loss to the Denver Broncos Monday night. Throwing it back to Benicio for this one. Who are you taking?
I'm going with the upset here. I'm taking the Jets, Jets. I think the Jets take care of business here. As I think the Bills struggle once again. I think Zach Wilson really hasn't looked that bad the past couple weeks, and I think Jets take care of business.
Now, I understand they just fired Ken Dorsey, which was a shock because they lead the league in they're top 7 in the league in 6 different offensive statistical categories. Ken Dorsey, there is he gone, but the Bills are going to win. It's like once you clean house, you get confident with the guy. Although I'm not sure Josh Allen wanted that. It had to be something behind the scenes and why he got fired. Give me the Bills. The Jets aren't that good. Zach Wilson's not that cool.
Bills favored by an entire 7 points in this game. I think it's going to be a close one. And like you said, it seems like with people getting fired, teams tend to turn things up a notch. So we'll see what happens in that AFC East matchup. Next, NFC West. We've got the Seahawks versus the Rams. Benny, who are you taking?
I'm going to take the Seahawks. I do think the Rams are a pretty solid team. But I think the Seahawks bounce back after, some rough weeks down the stretch. I do think the Seahawks win this game.
The Rams haven't really been able to get anything going, and I think this week they're going to find their mojo. Coop Kupp and Nakua are going to have big games. They're going to torch Seattle's secondary, even with Tariq Woolen. Give me the Rams.
I hate to break it to you, Dean, but I've been instructed from the back that we need a mic check from you. Your cord, I think, fell down your jersey. While you do that, I'll throw it to Benny for our next game. I'll throw it to Benny for the next game. We've got the Minnesota Vikings and the Denver Broncos primetime game. Josh Dobbs has proven to be that guy, the pastronaut, as NASA has said. Who are you taking in this game? Denver's coming off a big win, but Minnesota's been pretty good.
Minnesota, like you said, has been pretty good. I'm a big Josh Dobbs fan, as I have been for a while. I remember his time with the Steelers and then the Browns last year. But I'm going to go with the Broncos here. I think the Broncos are a pretty solid team. I think they got some very good wins on paper. I'm going to take Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos.
If you didn't hear me, I said the Rams are going to beat the Seahawks.
Yeah, we got that.
Okay, I was just making sure.
It might not pick it up, but... I was
just making sure.
Yeah, okay.
What is this, Broncos, Vikings? Give me the Broncos. Broncos are at home.
Really?
Russell
you guys
Wilson.
both riding
Russell
with the
Wilson,
Denver
Ben
Broncos.
Cookie. Who ride? We ride. Broncos country. Let's ride.
Denver,
Limited.
Denver is favored by 2.5 for this game, but Minnesota's been playing well. We'll see. It's another primetime game that's kind of a doozy, but I think our Monday night game
It's going to be a good game.
I think our Monday night game is going to be the best game of the week.
Yeah.
Super Bowl rematch. Philadelphia going into Arrowhead. Kansas City a 3-point favorite. Benny, round us out with your final pick.
I think the Eagles take care of business here. I think they go in. Jalen Hurts isn't going to let it happen. He's not going to lose to the Chiefs twice. Fly, Eagles, fly.
Dean, you're looking at him
Don't
like you're
ever
disappointed.
flap your arms again. that no way. That's terrible.
So you're taking the
That you
Chiefs?
just did that. No, I was going to take the Eagles, but now I want to take the Chiefs. I'm a Mahomes guy. I like Mahomes. I hate the Eagles. I thought the Eagles were a better team up to this point, which is why I thought they were going to win. But after the antics that I just saw take place on the other side of this table, give me the Chiefs.
All right, so we've got a
That's
total
right.
of 6 different picks from you guys. So for a tiebreaker, in case things split evenly, what's a score prediction for Monday night? We'll start with Benny since he gave his pick first.
Give me 31-24 Philadelphia Eagles.
And Dean, what's your score prediction?
Give me
It's going to be a high-scoring game. No?
20 to
Okay.
17.
2017. All right.
Chiefs, of course.
So we've got 6 different picks from the guys up here. We're doing it tournament style this year. No more King of the Hill. So we'll see when we come back in the winter time and who's going to be in that segment. But stay tuned for our MLB talk, where it will be Seth Adams, Scott Donnelly, and Logan Arblaster.
Welcome to the final segment on today's episode of Plead Your Case. At the beginning of the 2023 season, Major League Baseball made several new rule changes, but one that they have yet to implement is the idea of the automatic balls and strikes system. For short, robot umpires. They already tested it out at the minor league levels as high as AAA. Now, guys, let's just get into a basic opinion on it. Logan, what do you feel about this new rule of robot umpires?
Well, Seth, Major League Baseball umpires are just so absolutely atrocious at their jobs. And it's not just my biased opinion on it, it's the truth as well. And listen, they have instant replay in Major League Baseball. They have all these pitching graphics, pitch clock, all of this. But we can't have an automated strike zone in 2023 in a system that would get every single call right. Doesn't make sense to me. And here's the other thing. The players, everything's so dependent upon statistics and batting average, and their performance is based on home runs, RBIs hit, all those statistics. And then you look at the MLB umpires, and everybody just disregards their statistics. And we just keep going with what we're doing right now. And being a baseball player myself, there's nothing more frustrating than the third strike of an at-bat, and you're going back to the dugout, and it shouldn't be because of the home plate umpire.
Listen,
Scott.
I'm just your typical 50-year-old college student who loves sports. And what you have made me endure these past couple of years, Major League Baseball, Rob Manfred. Look at me in my eye, Rob Manfred. You have put me through it as a baseball historian, baseball enthusiast. The pitch clock, the shift, runners on second in extra innings. That means the last thing you did in the batter's box was make an out, and you're rewarded in the next inning by getting into scoring position. You made me endure that. Bigger bases. They got pizza boxes out there now along the bases, and relief pitcher restrictions. And now you're going to tell me you're going to take the human element out of the game for automatic strikes. It's not an exact science. It's not like you think it's going to be. The players step into the batter's box. They're different sizes. Their stances are different. All that's different. You're going to have to completely automate it, and it's never going to be an exact science. The pitchers who are in the major leagues who use the minor league system have said that strike zone squeezes them. The umpires today,
But it's the right strike zone. It's literally the perfect strike zone.
do we know that? Do we know
Yes,
that?
because they measured what exactly a strike zone should be, and it's exactly what it is.
But not every player is the same size, so you're going to have a different box.
But then
for everyone.
at least everybody would know what it is. At least everybody would know the same strike zone.
It's not the same thing. It wouldn't be the same. It's not a physical thing. It's not like tennis where you have a physical line and they run the automated replay. Look, baseball is a human element game, and I know it's been behind the times.
Why can't we keep the human aspect in the game while still taking away the home plate? You can still have umpires at first base, second base, third base. Why do we still need the home plate umpire?
Why do we need it now when we've had the same system all these years that's been perfectly fine?
Perfectly fine.
It has been perfectly fine.
55 games this year were determined by a home plate umpire. Not by the teams playing in the game. What are we talking about?
If the umpire is calling it the same both ways, if you have an umpire that's consistent on both ways,
yeah, but
it
they're
evens
not.
out. They
But
are.
they're not.
They are. Do you think an umpire is looking to set out to say, I'm going to call this one low on this guy, but not on this guy?
Well, how can you
It
say that
doesn't
they're
work
being
that way.
consistent when there was 34,294 missed calls all year?
Based on what a TV square? It's a TV square. You want to make the game better? Get rid of the TV square because that's what gets people all up in arms. It's not an exact science. In football, you got guys measuring first downs with a chain and a foot because you have an automatic line that you don't use. Technology is not always the answer. This is still the human element of the game. And if an umpire misses one, it's part of the game.
Fans are too passionate about their favorite teams to have games determined by an umpire and not by the 9 players playing on both sides of the field.
Okay. Time out. Let me ask you this. All right. I got a little segment, a little arts and crafts. All right. I've made 2 strike zones. Okay. And each of you get a color. I want you to draw me the definition of a strike on the outside. So I want you to draw a circle. I want him to draw a circle of what a strike is. What do you think should be called a strike?
Oh my God.
All right, let me see. Thank you, Scott. As we can see here, ladies and gentlemen, very different opinions on what a strike is. So why is this a strike, Logan?
Because it hits the very edge of the strike zone. That's a perfect pitch.
Okay.
And yet the ball is not inside the strike zone at all.
It is hitting the strike zone.
Where is the strike zone? The inside of the line or the outside of the line?
It doesn't have to be inside or
the line.
As
The
long
line
as
is
it's
the strike
touching.
zone. Okay.
Yes, it's part of the strike zone. The box and inside. It's like Foursquare. Have you ever played Foursquare? No, you were too old to play Foursquare.
Oh my
Everything
goodness.
outside the box and inside the box counts. Scott?
Okay, well, I don't agree with that. I don't like it. I think you're going to be. What if the technology goes and you're sitting there and you're rehashing? No, it's too much. Replay has gotten too much involved in baseball. You got to have an umpire is there to make the best call the way he sees fit. And when you're automating, you're taking that completely out of the game. You might as well not even have a catcher at that point. Because the catcher is actually helping you get strikes. The catcher is framing. You're going to take away the framing. That's part of the skill, part of the joy of watching baseball.
Who's your favorite team to watch in baseball?
The Pittsburgh Pirates.
So, same with me. So
Me too, guys.
We're saying if the Pirates make it to Game 7 of the World Series, and it's a one-run game, and it comes down to the very end, you're going to be okay with us losing if it's because of an umpire, and because we decided that we didn't want to go to a strike zone, that we could live with ourselves,
I would hate it, but I would respect it because I believe
that's
how
exactly
baseball
why
should be
it
called.
needs to be changed.
So, boys, these calls, right? I know we alluded a bit to this. should these bad calls be a part of the game? Is that baseball? Is bad calls baseball? And it's sad to say, but that's like with every sport. Football, PI, pass interference, holding, or something stupid like that. That could handle games. Is bad calls a part of baseball?
It's been said that it is. It doesn't mean that it should be. Whenever something was invented, when the Ford Model T was a thing, I mean, hopefully we'd update it by now. It's been like 100 years, Seth. I mean,
Bad calls are part of the game, and the thing that you want to do is try to get as many right as you can. But when it comes to an imaginary line, creating a box that doesn't exist.
But it's the same box for everybody.
But it doesn't exist. The zone is there to be interpreted by the umpire. You put an imaginary line out there in outer space, hanging in it, it's not the same.
Pitchers have the same strike zone. Hitters have the same strike zone. They tested in the minor leagues. I mean, people might not like it because of the points Scott's giving, but to me, you just have to have the automated strike zone, and it could be coming as soon as 2025.
Oh.
One thing I'll agree on is I do think it's inevitable that eventually we're going to see it, and that's probably whenever I start watching badminton, or what's the other little game?
It's called volleyball. Foursquare.
I'll probably be a Foursquare fan at that point.
I will say this too: if we don't change from the automated strike zone, the difference between younger home plate umpires and older home plate umpires is absolutely insane. The top 10 performing home plate umpires average 2.7 years of experience. The bottom 10 average 20.6 years of experience. So if we're not going to go to the automated strike zone, you have to get some of these younger guys in here.
All right, guys. Well, we had a lot of fun today. We had some great debates. We had some arts and crafts. But thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Plead Your Case. We'll see you next time.
This has been a production of Waynesburg Community Television.